Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth episode of this series exclusive to the History Hit YouTube channel, where we're going to be hitting the replay button on some of history's best known battles.
That's right, we'll be using the brilliant Total War Gaming series to recreate more famous battles blow for blow, and as always bringing you right to the heart of the action.
Yeah, a big thank you to everyone who's commented on or liked our videos so far, and please do keep your suggestions for future battles coming.
Yes, but right now we're going back to a battle that really kick-started the career of one of history's most successful generals.
That's right, it's the 18th of December, or thereabouts, in 218 BC, and the mighty Roman consular army under Sempronius Longus is about to come face to face with the legendary Hannibal Barca at the Battle of the Trebia. It's got a bit of everything, this battle. It's got surprise attacks, snow, it's even got elephants.
Yes, and luckily enough, I'll be on the side of the elephants. I'll be taking you through the strategy of Hannibal, leader and commander of the armies of Carthage, the North African superpower that was really Rome's only major rival in the Mediterranean at this point in history. And let me tell you, this is going to be a tactical masterclass.
Don't flatter yourself, mate, because coming up against Hannibal is the Roman consular army under Sempronius Longus, a great general in his own right, actually. He's just captured Malta from the Carthaginians. Now, Rome at this point is not the behemoth it would go on to be, at least in terms of territory, but its armies are known across the world for their efficiency and discipline.
Right, back to the real star of the show. If you want to learn more about Hannibal, we've got a brilliant documentary, The Rise of Hannibal, on History Hit TV. It's the first in our Rise of series, so if you want to learn more about his earlier career up until the point of this battle, then go check that one out.
Yeah, if you sign up to History Hit TV today, where there's loads of interesting Roman history, you'll get 14 days for free. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel as well, of course. But right now, it looks like the two armies are assembling behind us, so let's get into the Battle of the Trebia.
So Trebia happens right at the start of the Second Punic War. Now, Hannibal's father, Hamilcar Barca, he was a key Carthaginian commander during the First Punic War, which happens several decades earlier. Now, whilst that isn't a total defeat for Carthage, it certainly leads to a very one-sided peace treaty and the loss of a lot of territory for Carthage.
Yeah, in that first conflict, Rome pretty much takes Sicily from Carthage and proves itself more than a match in naval terms. But it's not a knockout blow for either side, and tension has been building really ever since. Now, war officially breaks out again in 219 BC, when Carthage attacks the Roman allied city of Saguntum in modern Spain.
And the man behind that provocative attack is, of course, Hannibal. Now, he's been told ever since he was a boy that revenge on Rome is his destiny. And legend has it, he's made to swear an oath by his father to destroy the city. Now, he's spent much of his adult life in Iberia, in modern-day Spain, as a cavalry commander, shoring up his skills as a general, and he certainly isn't short of confidence at this point.
No, so when war breaks out, the Romans set out to do what they do best. That's go and fight the war in enemy territory. So part of their army they send overland into Iberia. The second part of their army they send south to Sicily with a view to invading North Africa. But what they really don't expect is for Hannibal with his massive army to come overland through Gaul, across the Alps, and invade northern Italy.
Yes, it's an incredibly audacious display that few generals could pull off, but it is a myth, unfortunately, that Hannibal was the first one to cross the Alps with an army. The Gauls have been doing it for centuries, but what is truly spectacular is that Hannibal chooses one of the toughest of alpine passes. Now, he goes there in winter, and he also goes through enemy territory with elephants. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, to be fair. The Romans are taken completely by surprise, but there's no need to panic yet. They send an army under one of the two consuls, Publius Cornelius Scipio, to engage Hannibal at the Battle of Ticinus. Now, this is basically a large-scale skirmish with cavalry and light troops. The Romans are unfortunately routed and the consul badly wounded. Now it's time to panic. The planned invasion of North Africa is cancelled and the other consul, Sempronius Longus, is recalled from Sicily to face this new threat.
Yes, so Hannibal uses this time to replenish his already very exhausted and depleted force. Now we know that there's roughly 26,000 men who cross the Alps with Hannibal, but after Ticinus this is inflated to around 40,000 once the Gauls start flocking to his side. Now in the enemy camp of the defeated Scipio, it's a very different story. 2,000 of Rome's Gallic allies rise up and they start killing Roman soldiers in the night, and they actually cut their heads off and drag them to Hannibal in the morning.
Yeah, lovely gift from these guys. When Sempronius Longus turns up on the scene, his consular colleague Scipio advises him to be cautious, probably understandably. After all, Longus's troops are largely untested new recruits, but he's spoiling for a fight, and he goes and camps on the opposite bank of the river Trebia to Hannibal, quite close by. There's actually a large-scale skirmish the day before the main battle, with Roman soldiers chasing after a Carthaginian raiding party and sort of getting the upper hand. So this means that Longus is really confident of crushing Hannibal in a pitched battle.
We will make our gods proud that their people have such sons as us! In the name of Rome!
Okay, so we're using Rome 2 Total War to illustrate this battle. It's a brilliant game set in the ancient Mediterranean, but remember, it's just a video game, so whilst we're going to use it to give us the best sense of the armies and the battles, we're not going to get every detail spot on.
Yeah, it's impossible to reconstruct every exact move made by the two armies, although in this case we are actually pretty well informed by Polybius, who's a Greek historian and general living in Rome in the 2nd century BC.
Yes, so with his skirmish with Rome the other day, Hannibal has learnt a very important lesson. He now knows that he can lure the Roman general, who's very headstrong, into fighting on his terms. And that's exactly what he does. On the morning of the 18th, he sends his Numidian cavalry across the river to attack the Roman camp at dawn.
Yeah, it's a sneaky tactic, but it works. Longus takes the bait. We're told by the sources that Longus has a headstrong and aggressive temperament, and that's the only way really to explain what happens next. So he sends out his whole force of cavalry, followed by the light troops, followed by his heavy infantry, to chase after this raiding party. They've not had breakfast, they've just woken up. And even worse, they're told to chase the Numidian cavalry over the freezing river Trebia. Now, Roman soldiers aren't exactly known for their height, and they're up to their necks in icy water.
Yes, and it's very different in the Carthaginian camp. They've had a warm, hearty meal, they're prepared, and they actually rub oil on their bodies before the... Listen, apparently it's a very effective tactic for keeping warm, okay? Anyway, they line up on the west bank of the Trebia and they send their light skirmishers out to screen the retreat of the Numidian cavalry.
Meanwhile, Longus has crossed the river with his army and he takes several hours to deploy his 4 Roman and 4 allied legions. That's around 40,000 men, so roughly similar to the size of Hannibal's forces. Now, spending all that time in sodden clothes and armour, standing in the freezing cold, can't have been that fun. So it's a good job that these are some of the most disciplined soldiers in the world.
So let's look at this Carthaginian army in a bit more detail. So we know that Hannibal places his most recent recruits, the Gallic troops, in the centre of his army. He probably does this because he wants to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't defect. Now, either side of them, he has, of course, his veteran African and Iberian infantry. Now, either side of them, it's the elephants, the famous elephants. We know that there's 37, that leaves Spain. Now, we don't know exactly how many he has at this point, but we can be pretty certain he has quite a few. And of course, on the outer flanks, that's where the real strength of the Carthaginian army lies. In its outer flanks, he's placed his elite Carthaginian cavalry, which are so often a battle-winning force.
Yeah, now the Romans also place their cavalry on their flanks, but they're far fewer in number. Much more important for them are this block of heavy Roman infantry in the centre. Now they're typically set up with the hastati in the front ranks. These are the poorest of their infantry. Behind them the principes, guys in the prime of their lives, the real fighting force of the army. And behind them the spear-wielding triarii, the veterans. On either side of these guys they've got Italian and Gallic allies of their own. So it's around noon that the Romans make their big move, advancing their entire line across this flat plain. There's skirmishing going on in earnest in front of them between the Roman velites and Hannibal's Balearic slingers, with the Romans actually getting the worst of it because they've used so many projectiles earlier in the day. After that, the Roman infantry closes in.
Yes, and Hannibal's very happy to let the Romans approach him. So once his infantry are engaged, the cavalry on the wings charge headlong into each other.
Man in order! Fire! Fire on the enemy! For glory!
Now, unsurprisingly, the Roman cavalry are pretty spooked out by the Carthaginian elephants, and all our sources agree that they put up pretty feeble resistance.
Yeah, the Roman cavalry really let the side down, to be honest, but it's a different story in the middle. So the Roman infantry are kind of matched against Hannibal's Gallic allies, and they're having plenty of joy. They're used to fighting them after all. It's a sign of how good these Roman soldiers are, actually, that despite the fact that they're freezing cold and hungry, they are still fighting and winning.
Yes, and it's weird. So the victorious Carthaginian cavalry then flank round and start attacking the rear of the Roman block, the infantry block, but it's seemingly impossible. So the Carthaginian line now waning and Hannibal with no reinforcements to call upon, it seems like his strategy is in tatters. But he has a surprise up his sleeve.
Servants of Baal Hamon!
So in secret, the previous night, Hannibal places 2,000 of his best troops, both infantry and cavalry, in a dry riverbed to the south. Now commanded by his younger brother Mago, they then make their way onto the open plain, pretty much undetected, to the rear of the Roman army.
Yeah, well played, Hannibal, well
you.
played. This leaves the Romans with very little room to manoeuvre. All they can really do is keep pushing forward, which they do very effectively. The Carthaginian reinforcements actually surround and overwhelm the Italian and Gallic allies on the Roman flanks.
Yeah, and so in a weird sort of set of circumstances, Hannibal's on the cusp of victory despite the main centre of his line pretty much giving way to the Roman onslaught. Now the remainder of the Carthaginian army, they focus on the parts of the Roman army that they've trapped and they inflict maximum casualties.
Yeah, pretty brutal. Sempronius Longus, who's in this hardcore of Roman infantry that breaks through, he can see that the day is lost, so he actually keeps pushing forward, and pretty much without interference from the Carthaginians, he's able to wheel round and recross the Trebia to the safety of Roman Placentia to the east. Now, he then rides off to Rome to get ahead of this bad news, to basically put a positive spin on what's a really painful defeat.
I would.
That was bloody work!
So it's hard to be accurate on the exact number of casualties at the battle, but modern estimates say that the Romans lost about half of their force. That's 20,000 men. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the wounded wouldn't have survived the night because of the sub-zero temperatures, but it goes for Hannibal's army too. He loses a lot of his wounded, his horses, and most of, if not all of his elephants would not see the morning.
Yeah, the awful weather conditions actually provide one of the few silver linings for the Romans, because Hannibal can't press home his advantage straight away. He has to wait for winter to abate. That gives the Romans a chance to raise new legions to face this threat, and hindsight would prove they'd need every single man they could get.
Yes, Hannibal proved that the Romans could be defeated in pitched battle. Now Carthage was now the dominant force in northern Italy. The Gauls were now flocking to his banner, and he would go on to defeat the Romans time after time on their own soil, bringing him to the gates of Rome itself.
Yes, but as the Roman historian Livy has one of Hannibal's cavalry commanders tell him, you know how to gain a victory, but not how to use it. Despite repeated defeats on the field, like a mythical hydra, the Roman army would keep coming back. And while Hannibal was untouchable as a commander in Italy, elsewhere in Iberia, in Sicily and North Africa, Carthage's power was gradually ground down. The final showdown would come at the Battle of Zama in 201 BC. But that's a story for another day.
Certainly is. We really hope you enjoyed the Battle of the River Trebia. It was a near tactical masterclass from one of history's greatest generals. Now our friend Tristan Hughes, he covers the whole of Hannibal's winter campaigns on his Ancients podcast, so do check those episodes out.
Yeah, it is worth remembering that the Romans did break through your line. So, I mean, if this was a rugby match, they'd have actually won.
A rugby match? You are honestly clutching at straws, mate.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, you're right. That was our final battle for 2021. But now it's time to get your suggestions in for next year. We've done medieval, we've done ancient, and of course we can do plenty more of both. But there's a lot of history to cover, so do challenge us.
Yes, do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really is the best Christmas present you could ever ask for. We'll see you in the new year, guys.
Welcome to the History Hit YouTube channel, which we are relaunching. We've got all the best exclusive content going straight onto this History Hit YouTube channel. And you can find out, for example, why on earth I'm standing at the top of this mast. You should probably subscribe.